You can't ignore the fact of prostate cancer, but you don't want it to consume your whole life. That's where this group comes in. It's not a club, it's just people seeking answers from people who've had experience. Just zoom in when you want to know how others have got on with something. Put cancer in its place. Go on to live the fullest life on your own terms.
Now, I've got a Toowoomba prostate cancer support group shirt on. You probably can't read that, but anyway, so I've just given them a plug for the day. So welcome. You've been overseas?
I have, yeah, about 3 months. So
how did that go?
That was good. We had a fairly good trip. I had to have, and I organised an ADT shot whilst I was over in London, which was a bit of a challenge.
Right.
But it is doable for anybody who's interested.
Well, that's the main thing. It's nice to know it's doable. Yep. So it is. So do you have to buy it in overseas, or you would have to?
I actually took it with me.
All right.
And my daughter lives there, so she rang her doctor, and I had to go in and see them and register. And once that registration process went through, it took about a week. I then made an appointment and went in and saw the nurse and got it done.
Oh, good. That's handy to know for anyone that's going overseas.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Well, as an interesting associated comment, I was on a cruise ship earlier this year and needed to get my ADT injection done, but they wouldn't do it unless the ship's doctor wouldn't do it unless I had my prescription with me.
Oh, wow.
So fortunately, I had fluked the foresight of making a copy of my prescription, which my chemist normally holds. I had that with me, so I was able to get it done, no dramas. But if anybody's traveling, they probably should take their copy of their prescription with them.
Right. Yes, Jim.
More than that, prescriptions for your drugs, plus drugs in their actual packets. So if you've got aspirin, it's got to be in an aspirin packet so they can see with the whole deal. That's partly at this end to stop Australians from smuggling our free drugs to sell in other countries when they get there.
Because what we've been doing is because when you buy medications, pills and such like, you get this whopping great container with 3 tablets in it, and so we've been consolidating multiple containers worth into one container. So they're the container says 30 pills, but ours would have like 90 in them or something. So, but we have had the original containers.
You're going to get thrown off the boat one of these days.
I went on a trip recently and I required a list of all my medications from a doctor and describing exactly what they were for, how many I had, the whole 9 yards. So when I got to the States, I had to hand it in and show them, and even then it was who you get on the day, and they're going to let you through, and it was a bit hairy, but yes.
Wow.
Doctor full explanation.
So the other thing, Yanni, is I take them. I keep a jumble of the drugs, but I keep the packets as flat packs. You just fold the packet flat so you can show it if necessary.
Okay, so you mix all the pills up in.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And just cut the box off. Cut the thing off.
No. Just take the box. If you've got an aspirin box, you just take the aspirin box, but fold it flat, and I got half a dozen of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I know when we went to South America, we had to have a list of drugs from the doctor that we took and that sort of thing. Because you go to so many different countries, you never know what you're going to get asked in various countries. So
Yeah, we got that too.
Yeah, just in case. So, rightio. Tony, I got an email from you the other day, and I haven't answered it yet. But Tony Maxwell, it was pretty good news.
Yeah. Just very quickly, I've had my latest PSA result a few days ago, and it's now down to 0.05, which is the lowest it's ever been in the last 20 odd years, and hopefully we'll keep going down even further, but there's not too much further to go. So I'm very pleased with that.
We all are. We definitely all are. Yeah.
Yes.
What's that a result of, Tony?
Sorry?
What is that a result of?
Why
is it so?
It's a result of the stereotactic radiation that I had done in about this time in 2022. Didn't do very much to start with, but then it started knocking the PSA of about 15 at the time down, and then it rocketed right down, and it's now 0.05. So I'm in my third remission over a 20-year period, and we can keep it going for a while to come.
Ev, I was going to suggest that for the sake of the newbies online, when we're providing an update, it might be an idea to provide a 30-second potted history as well. Okay, well,
I had a radical, a failed radical in 2003. The PSA at the time was about 6 or 7, and the Gleason was 8. And the PSA result after the procedure was the same as before. So that was most disappointing, and they couldn't find where the bugger was. So I was shunted onto hormone treatment, Lucrin, and that knocked it right down for quite a period of time, and then it started going up and went up to about 70 in 2014. I got on a clinical trial with enzalutamide at the time, where everybody got the drug, and that knocked it back down to about 1 for a period of time. Then it started gradually going up again, and went up to about 15 about a year ago. So I'm now in my sort of third remission, and hopefully there'll be some other technical development down the track when the third remission eventually fails.
Thanks very much for that, Tony. Any questions to Tony?
Yeah, how many lesions did you have, Tony? How many?
As far as the PSMA PET scans could show, and the bone scans, I only had 1, and that was in the right pelvic lymph node. Nothing in the bone, just one in the lymph node. And they had to be pretty cautious because there were sort of, other structures pretty close to where it was in doing the radiation, but they were very pernickety about that, and I'm pleased that they were. I didn't have any negative side effects from the radiation that I'm aware of, and everything went really well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's good news. Anyone else like to make a comment or ask the question to Tony?
Well, I think Alan might have a few words to say at some stage.
Oh, only good result, mate. It's interesting that it's just one lymph node that's been causing all that drama all that time, apparently.
Yeah.
The idea of maintaining a background of systemic treatment with the stereotactic SBRT is a good idea, because you never quite know if there's any microscopic metastasis happening, even though it may not be showing up on the PET scan. So good result. Keep it up.
Good one.
I think some of us get an email from, or you, Stu, at least get an email from Chuck Mack in America, and he had a similar result as Tony, having treatment for years and years and years, and when the scans improved, he was able to have treatment on a particular lesion, and I think he's advanced prostate cancer free these days.
Yeah.
So he is, yeah. So that was really good news. He had a fall the other day, which wasn't so good for him. He's in his 90s. Anyway, he keeps ploughing on. So he does. Righto. Rodney, would you like to give us a little bit about your story from Taree, how things are with you?
Yep. I was diagnosed in 2021. I'm 55 now. PSA was about 500. When I got diagnosed, I had cancer. It was on the bone from the pelvic region to the top of my head, and on the spine, ribs, to my shoulders, elbows and knees. I did 6 months of chemo, which brought it down a lot, and just on the ADT drugs. The first lot we used was bringing it down. The second lot, the Lucrin, doesn't work. It just brings down the testosterone, so they put me on bone medication, injections, and tablets. So I'm down at the moment. I'm down to 2. The PSA is 2.
That's good. Yeah, that's going in the right direction.
It is, yes.
So it's still going down. It hasn't risen at all, or
It rose when I went on to the Lucrin. That was
right?
in July, but that's when they put me on the bone. The tablets. I take tablets and I take injections monthly
Right.
for bones, and then that's when it started going down again.
Right.
That's radium 223, is it?
No, I don't get that. I live in regional areas. I get basic stuff. It's called Xtandi. The tablet's Xtandi, and the injection is like demo slab, or that's what I call it, demo sab.
Demosumab.
That's it,
Yeah.
demosumab.
Yep. Right.
And I take a lot of painkillers because that's what I've been informed to do.
Did you have much pain when you were first diagnosed?
Yep,
Right.
lots of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So-
lost all fat. I weigh now 60. I was about 53. So I lost a lot of weight, but I've gained it all back again.
Oh, good. Yep.
But it's still in lots of pain.
Right.
Pain medication. I take Tarjan. I'm on 30 milligrams in the morning and 20 at night. Plus I have endone 4 times a day.
Right.
Mm.
So Rodney,
Yep.
with painkillers, you'll have your base painkiller, and it's important that you have that regularly in the times that it's prescribed. So yours appears to be endone 4 times a day. So as close as you can, you should be taking that evenly spaced, 4 times a day. That when your pain gets under control, that'll keep it under control. And if you've got that base level, it's harder for it to break out. When it does break out, then you use your next level and you hit it soon and fast. So that's your target. So one thing men sometimes do is think they'll brave it out or whatever.
That's me. Yep.
But take your regular one very regularly, your base one, and when it hits hard, hit it heavily. And the third thing is contact your doctor if it continues. If you don't get under control relatively quickly. I mean, your doctor, or perhaps you have a prostate cancer nurse somewhere near Taree.
Yeah, we got the cancer clinic here, which I go to every 3 months. And there's the one in Port Macquarie Cancer Institute, which I chatted to them, and I went down there for a couple of interviews.
Okay.
And they sent out palliative care nurse, which was different.
So the main thing is, don't put up with it. There's a whole series of pain-killing drugs. I mean, you start off with paracetamol, and then you move up the list. And you want to make sure that if you need to move up the list to get it under control, that you do. So your palliative care nurse might be a good first point of call. You'll have to decide, whether you get the most action out of that nurse.
Yeah. She basically saw me once and said, "We don't need to come back and sign me out," kind of thing. But they were pushing the endone because I wasn't taking a lot. I was just taking the Tarjan, which is what my oncologist prescribed to me originally. Until I said, yeah, it still hurts. That's when they started giving me endone after the Tarjan.
Okay, so palliative care people generally know more pain control than your medical oncologist.
Yes.
But perhaps you, as well as a palliative care nurse, you need a palliative care doctor that you can get onto. As I said, you've got to get onto these things as soon as they're a problem. I guess you'll have to contact whoever you can contact down there and say, how do you get a hold of a palliative care doctor?
Okay.
Okay.
I think
That would
it's
probably be Port Macquarie. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Nev.
Alan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Jim just said, including particularly the palliative care specialist. That's their stock in trade. Palliative care is not something you should be, concerned about using there. It's there for exactly your situation, Rodney. So, it's not there for people who are about to drop off the twig. It's there to prevent, real impacts on their life, and you're obviously having some. So, definitely agree with Jim. Just on the history, just when did you first notice symptoms, Rodney? How old were you, and what were they?
55 now, and probably I was diagnosed 2021, probably 2020. It kind of all started happening. Actually, I had a sore back in 2020, and I was getting massages, and I had an X-ray, and there was nothing there. And then 6 months later, I think it was, we had an X-ray, and there was just cancers everywhere. So
when you say X-ray, have you had any other form of scan besides X-ray? I mean,
I can't remember what they're called. I've had the MRI, the
PET scan.
PET scan, the one where they inject you.
Yeah, a PET scan is the most sensitive. It's called a PSMA PET scan. It's a very specific one for prostate cancer. Very sensitive. It'll pick up very minute tumours wherever they are. So I would guess at some point you'll need a follow-up PET scan to track the effective treatment. So just be aware of that. That's the scan that counts. All the other scans you can forget pretty much. That one matters. So just with your oncologist, just be aware of that, and you can ask when it's appropriate to have another look. As long as if the PSA is responding to treatment, as long as it continues to respond, there's probably not a lot of point in scanning. But if it stops responding, then maybe that's another time to have a look. Have you had any family history at all of prostate cancer that you're aware of?
Grandfather had prostate cancer. Grandmother had breast cancer. My father had bowel cancer, and he died in November.
Right.
So I did the blood test to do the cancer mutation.
Oh, yeah.
It took 8 months for them to approve it. It came back that I didn't have any mutations, but there was a mutation on one of the tests, and they said there are like 7 people in the world that have that mutation, and they don't know what it is. So I got to ring them in 3 years' time.
Okay. It's good that you've had that done, because depending, there is a a genetic test for one that's more commonly recognised with breast cancer, but it's also true of people with prostate and ovarian cancer too. So any connections with family are absolutely worth following up, and it's great that you've done that.
Alan,
Yeah.
do you mind if I just cut in for a moment?
Go ahead.
Not just when Rodney's finished, and in no particular hurry. A lot of what I have to say dovetails into what you're all saying, actually, and his story. So would I be able to go next?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, no hurry, but
it's good to flag it. And after you're gone, I'll probably have to go too. So, okay. They're the two main things. The other one I was going to mention, you said you're having denosumab, which is a bone strengthening agent, and very important to do with particularly early stage treatment of metastatic disease. So stick with that. That's the injection. The tablets that you're having, the Xtandi, or otherwise known as enzalutamide, that's one of a few excellent second generation ADT drugs used in conjunction with the primary one. You mentioned that you went on to Lucrin and it went backwards. Did you have any other injection in replacement of Lucrin?
No, I just stayed with Lucrin.
So you're still on Lucrin plus the enzalutamide?
Yeah.
Xtandi, yeah, okay.
But Lucrin's got really cool side effects. In the injection in the box that it comes with, there's actually a piece of paper which you can sign up to this thing called the Man Plan.
Yep.
Which I didn't know about.
Yep.
So that was funky.
That's great. Sometimes the pharmaceutical companies are there to help you. So that's good. Okay, well, that's all the comment I wanted to make, Rodney. Keep rocking up to these meetings and keep us briefed, and as things develop, more hopefully have more more thoughts to put to you that you can in turn put to your doctor. So
Carney, Rod Clark wants to have a go next.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Alan. Yeah, Rod.
Hi guys. Yeah, my story does, like I said, dovetail well into Rodney's. And I can't say enough about irregularity with the PET scans. But I will tell you my story first. And I think I was 52, the end of 2001. I was running 5K a day. Everything was healthy, eating well, doing everything right. And I noticed I was getting soreness in my hip. And it was getting worse and worse and affecting my running. And I went and saw a GP, and he, did all the GP stuff, and that didn't work. He sent me to physios and sports physio, whatever they were, and all sorts of things. And I had to sit him down after a few months, or a number of months, and just say, listen, I think this is worse than we are treating or we think it is. And I went and had a bone scan, and there was a tumor in my I'm really bad with terms. I'm really bad with dates, and I'm really bad with the names of my drugs. So I apologize for that up front. I have a supportive girlfriend, and that's her role, and that includes her. So that's fantastic. But in my hip, basically, I had a tumor, and the doctor, I went in to do the scan, and when the doctor calls you that day, it's not good. So it was prostate cancer metastasized into my hip. They finally found out, and I was just put on hormones, and the whole my whole care was centered around going in 3 monthly to get my injection and meet with my oncologist, or usually an underling of my oncologist, and it was purely based on PSA levels. And this was going around for a couple of years, and I started to get a pain in my coccyx and my lower back, and I had a sporting injury when I was younger in my coccyx. I twisted it and whatever, and I thought it was just old age coming back and playing with that. And usually a couple of ibuprofens would fix it and it'd be fine. And then I was taking more ibuprofen and more ibuprofen, and nothing was happening. But my PSAs were still undetectable and everything was fine. And I eventually just went into my oncologist and said, I want to get this checked out. And it turns out that and while I was in there getting the test, the VT test and the MRIs and the whole lot, I spent a lot of time in the waiting room, as you all know, and spoke to other people who said that 2 of them said that they get PET scans every 6 months, and another 3 or 4 said they get it yearly. I'd gone 2.5 years without getting one, and the cancer had spread all the way up my lower back, up to my shoulder, and my PSA was, I did the PSA that day, and it had gone from undetectable to 0.5. So I can't endorse enough of getting that test done on a semi or regular basis, because they've just missed it, just missed everything. And now I'm on chemo, and it's just been the whole, their idea was this landing pad of my PSA would go up, and then we'd have discussions about what the next best method of treatment was, and there'd be options for me, and blah, 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 blah. And within a week, I'm told this is what you have to do, and I've got a needle in my arm doing chemo. So a big turnaround. No landing pad, no talking it through. I'm very much, it is what it is. People get cancer. I got cancer. There's no reason I shouldn't get cancer. But that was a bit of a shock even to what I describe as my positive attitude. I'm sort of off the side of the cliff at the moment, and doing well, and quite happy with since I made that mental break, and since I did have a fairly sharp conversation with my oncologist and got that behind me, I'm all guns are blazing. But I just feel if I had have known the option that a VT scan every so often is probably a good thing to do, we might have caught it quicker, or we might have had a better opportunity to come up with a quicker, a lengthier plan that I could get my head around, Does that all make sense?
Yep. Yes, Yanni?
I was just going to ask Rod Clark, do you have access to any lutetium treatments?
I haven't even heard of that. What
That's
is that in a nutshell?
That's a PSMA avid treatment that specifically goes out and hunts down the cancer cells. Cancer cells.
How do you spell that?
Lutetium, Lutetium.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, and so cancer cells emit PSMA, and you can get PSMA PET scans done. They use a gallium isotope, and that goes and identifies where all of the cancerous lesions are, and then you can use PSMA sensitive or PSMA avid lutetium, if you like, missile bearing treatment. It's a nuclear medicine, and they inject you with that, and that goes out and specifically hunts down all of the locations where you've got these lesions, and it works remarkably successfully. So if you've got a lot of them around your body, it's been shown.
I do now. Is this something that I should have been told?
There may still be some trials out there with other treatments in combination, such as lutetium with PARP inhibitors, or lutetium with various hormone treatments or something. So you should absolutely look that up.
Yeah. So
a lot less side effects than chemo as well.
You got a comment on that, Alan?
Yep. Good to have mentioned that, Yanni, and that's relevant for Rodney as well, that suggestion. Lutetium is a radio radioisotope method. It's radiation basically, but it's systemic rather than focusing a beam of radiation on a tumour. And as Yanni very well explained, it doesn't work for everybody, but it does work for many people very well. It's not necessarily permanent, but for some people it is. So just to put that in context, whereabouts are you guys? Rodney's in Taree. Where are you, Roderick?
Brisbane, at the
Brisbane.
MARTA.
Yeah, well, look, I think I'd check around. It might be Princess Alexandra Hospital that's doing it. I'm not sure about Brisbane. It originated in Australia at Peter Mac in Melbourne. They're doing it at St Vincent's in Sydney, and I think in Brisbane it might be Princess Alexandra, but I don't know.
No, it's a Royal Brisbane, I think you'll find, Alan.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah,
thanks, Steve. That's great. As far as that's concerned, you would need, you know, if it's a public hospital, you can just rock up and have your history with you,
Yep.
and make sure that that's understood. Just to remind me, Roderick, what medication are you currently on?
Similar to Rodney, I'm a Tarzan 30-15s twice a day.
Not the painkillers, but the cancer treatment. Just
I don't know. I don't know the name.
okay. Well, that's important to know. You really need to have a handle on what cancer treatment you're having, because it's fairly fundamental when you're talking to a doctor. They'll respect you a whole lot more if you're across where you're at and what you're having done. You have a much more.
My thing is the only doctor I'm speaking to about it is my oncologist.
That's okay.
And my GP is aware of everything.
Yep. But whoever you're talking to, including any new ones, the more you know about your current treatment, the more respect you'll get. I think that's the experience of most of us. So just it is worth doing a little bit of homework to keep yourself across it. And it's particularly important in a forum like this to be able to tell us, what treatments you're actually having, so that any.
I had my first treatment on Thursday, so I've been more about trying to find a landing spot than. Well,
again, if you're across the technical end of it, and I know it can be a bit complicated, but if you are across that, it will help you psychologically as well. It gives you some sense of control that you are able to have a constructive discourse with your medical guys, and have an input into asking about side effects and efficacy and all those things when it comes to options. And there are always options. In this disease, there are a heck of a lot of options, depending very much on your history, and on your current current presentation with tests. So next time you front up here, can I just suggest you just have all that at your fingertips, and
I will do.
We'll get a whole lot more out of it, I guarantee.
Not a problem.
Thanks for that, Alan. Any other comments or questions to Rod?
Just a technical thing for Rod and everyone else. Somewhere in your Zoom window, it'll say chat. On a computer, it's beside the green share screen very often. If you click on that, it will turn the chat window on and off. And if you look at that chat window at the moment, it shows you how to spell lutetium, and it also lists a number of other common drugs. So if you want to give someone some information, you can use it, or I can use it. Anyone can use it, yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
That's really helpful.
Thank you.
Last thing about the chat doesn't go into the video. So you've got to capture it or ask me to send you stuff before the meeting ends.
Yep.
Yes, Yanni.
In fact, there was a presentation, a webinar done back in July, where a whole bunch of specialists talked about the relative merits of lutetium and gallium and whatever, and they were talking about some new and improved versions coming along, and there's a specialist called David Patterson at the Royal Brisbane Hospital who's doing or planning trials with plumbium-212, which apparently has a greater impact to tumours than lutetium-177. So you might want to chase that down and see whether there's any legs in participating in that.
There are quite a lot of trials going on in this area, both with lutetium in the context of combination treatments, and in the case of alternative isotopes like the one that Yanni mentioned, and a number of others. So it's a pretty fruitful time to be plugging into a nuclear medicine specialist. They'll be, particularly those that are involved with prostate cancer, they'll be across all of that. So
I think that guy in Brisbane, he was looking for 17 people for that trial, Yanni. So I don't know where that's at the moment. So yeah, John, did you want to say something? It just went a bit of yellow around your screen, around your picture.
No, I just I think my comment to the two Rods would be you've really got to advocate for yourself and know what you're dealing with. You know, I have PET scans every 6 months. So, you know, you've really got to. What I'm trying to say is not that you can't trust your doctor, but you've got to take control of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is all brand new to me. You've seen me writing down fervently as we've been speaking.
Good lad.
Well, another observation is make sure that you have your own medical records, copies of all of your records.
I do. I've got what we call to refer to my cancer book.
Yeah, and make sure that that's got all your medications listed, as Al said earlier, and take that with you, because through this journey you will, I hate that word, you'll have to take that information to specialists as you proceed, because you will need to change from one to another, because you know, sometimes you know, if you see specialists who are in the same hospital or the same cohort or something, they don't want to criticise each other's diagnoses. So you have to go find somebody else new, and it's very useful to be able to just wield out your compendium and say, okay, well, this is the history.
This is the progress.
Just adding something to Yanni's point, that's particularly important with asking for a copy of every blood test you have and every imaging report that's generated. You're entitled to have both of those each time it happens, and the Privacy Act makes it quite clear. They can't say no. A copy of all of those, of each of those, should be going to your GP, so it's up to you whether you ask your GP for them. Ask a pathologist to send you the result direct, a copy of, and in the case of a specialist, or your GP, your imaging reports, because
that was one of my.
It's part of your self-education, all that.
That was one of my initial frustrations, was that I was getting sent all these tests and the bloods and other tests, and then I would go in expecting, okay, so what are the results? And they wouldn't be spoken of. They either didn't find what they wanted to, and then it discounted it. And so I had to have a word to them about that. I said, look, if you didn't find, I still want to know that, you know, what, and it's like drawing blood from a stone, trying to get some information out of these people.
Well, you've got to get your own act together in terms of self-education, so you understand what the actual jargon, and it is a bit complex, the jargon in those reports, both the bloods and the imaging, but progressively you can get your head around it. You can talk to any one of us or all of us to help you with that. That's why we're here. So don't just make sure that's part of your goal to.
Yeah, I'll bring my book with me next time.
Good on you. Look, I'm going to disappear.
I've got an Excel spreadsheet that I write all the different blood test results down on, and it goes back to 2009, and and I've got on the right-hand side the range that they should be between. And so I get over 50 different blood tests done every 3 months. And I can tell you what any one of them were just by looking at that spreadsheet at any time.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. And plenty of men do. Yeah, Yanni.
Would you
I do
excuse-
exactly the same.
I have to take off. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
good, Alan. Thanks for your input. All the very best. Good to
Okay.
talk to
Good on
you.
you, Al.
Thank you.
Ciao. No, I do exactly the same. So I can see a history, and one of my main drivers for that is so that I can see teeny little trends upwards before they escalate into big time, and then I can get onto my oncologist and say, is this important, or doesn't it matter, or whatever. And by the way, when you go get a blood test, I get my blood tests every month. Some people don't say I do it too much, but that's the way I want to do it. And you can request the pathology labs to mail and email blood test results to you. You just have to ask them.
Okay.
If you get it done with Sullivan Nicolaides in Brisbane, they might be a little bit hard to get them to send it to, but they will send it to if you tell them you really, really need it. You really have to have it.
Well, in fact, I haven't found it that much of an issue. The thing is, where you get a blood test and it says who they got to send the blood tests to, you write your own name.
Yep.
And your address under the doctor, and they will send it to you, because they don't know. They don't know if the doctor wrote your name down there or who wrote your name down there.
I've been known to add another test to the list.
Yeah, why not?
Righto. Yes, John.
I was going to say, I have a bit of a strategy tool all of that. So with my blood tests, I get my local doctor, my usual doctor, copied in before I have my review with the oncologist. And I always ring the clinic nurse, and she emails me the results of the report so that I know before I talk to my oncologist what my bloods are doing. And if that helps me prepare with any questions in terms of what's next.
Yep.
The other thing I do is I scan everything onto my phone. So whenever I go and see medical people, I've got it with me.
Yep. Good. Any other questions? Rodri, how did you handle chemotherapy?
So just when you said that you scanned it into your phone, I've got a feeling that's what I did with my chemo. I'm just trying to pull it up. How did I handle chemo, as in side effects, or the actual thought process of it, or
everything. The results, the side effects.
The speed at which it was presented to me was a bit daunting, and because I've always had in the back of my head, and this doesn't speak of me as a person really, but chemo's just always been a dirty little word, and because it's never had, no one ever is glowing about chemo. It's just one of those things that is you hope that you don't have to encounter it in your lifetime, and then to have it sprung on me and within a day got a needle in my arm was all a bit quick and daunting. The whole process was fine. I had my partner there. Everyone was, after I had the chat with the oncologist, everyone was fantastic. The next 2 days, I had my bike in the shop, so I didn't have any transport because I didn't think, I was told I would be, not feeling that great. The next 2 days, I felt absolutely fantastic, best I felt in years, and I had nowhere to go and no one to do anything with, and I'm bouncing around my studio, going off thinking I'm wasting the 2 best days I'm going to have for the rest of my life. So that was very frustrating. But on the 3rd day, I was up to do a pee at 2 o'clock in the morning, and halfway there realized that I was going to have a bowel movement, which was very unusual because the medication I'd been on had made that difficult. And then I spent the next 5 hours between my chair and the bathroom. And that went on for 3 days, between 2 and 6 in the morning. Very, very shaky. One time I was half an hour sitting on the bathroom. I couldn't get off even to have meds, so my hip was screaming at me. So I couldn't have any pain meds to take that away because I couldn't trust myself to get off the toilet. And then I went and I explained all this to the pal care lady yesterday, and she said, take more of your medication for anti-diarrhea. And I don't know if it was that or if it's just time has elapsed since the chemo, but last night I didn't have a problem at all.
Oh, good.
And finally got a good night's sleep.
Good. Right. Yes, Yanni.
Does that answer the question, or is there
just-
something more
I was
specific?
just saying, thankfully you're getting better.
I feel quite good today. Yeah.
Pleased to hear that. So yeah, because chemo affects everyone a little bit differently. So some people handle it better than others. So yeah.
Am I right in? I've been told that it gets worse the further down the treatments you get, or is that personal as
Just
well?
hang on a sec.
Yeah, that varies by per people.
Yeah.
Very often the first treatment is the worst. That they calculate how much dose you'll need based on your the area of your skin and your height, and then they have to titrate that afterwards. They don't necessarily change the dose itself, though they sometimes do. What they more often need to do is change the drugs against the side effects. So, if your first one, you have a lot of nausea or whatever, then the next time they'll increase the nausea drugs that they give with the chemo. But some people just breeze through them. One guy we had, a member in Western Australia, Ian, he had 20 docetaxel. That's 2 lots of 10 docetaxel. And then he had, last count I saw, Nev might be able to help here, he'd had 61 doses of another chemotherapy.
Yeah, I remember him having 61. Yes, over 60. Yeah.
That's cabazitaxel. And on the other hand, some people are very much affected by it. You will have been given some chemotherapy instructions. Particularly important is that in the middle of your 3-week session, for a period of 7 or 10 days on average, you will be very liable to infection. So you and your partner and anybody else you come across in that middle part have got to be very, very careful. I have your contact details, so I'll send you another thing on that might supplement the one you've been given. But basically, you wash everything twice and so on. There's all sorts of things there. When the grandkiddies come,
is this like minor cuts and stuff like that?
Say again, please.
Is this like for minor cuts and stuff like that?
No. Your chemo has killed off many of your white cells that fight infection. Your body is busy building you a new lot, and but while that's on, you can any sort of infection, a cough or a cold or whatever, your body you'll be very susceptible to, and you might end up in hospital treating that. So every different infection. The doctor will do a blood test before he does your next chemo session, and he'll be checking to see, or she will be checking to see whether you've got enough white cells there, and if you haven't, they might come back in another couple of days.
Righto, Rodney. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye, Rodney.
All the best.
Thanks for coming.
All right,
And
thank you.
see you next time.
See ya.
Rodney.
Rightio.
Well, I might also throw in my tuppence worth. So the most commonly used chemo is docetaxel, but that can have some pretty ordinary side effects. Anecdotally, some people suck ice cubes and stick ice packs on their head and stuff like that to ease the whole injection process. I don't know because I haven't had chemo yet. But there is also another chemo aside from docetaxel that is milder, and that's called cabazitaxel. And if docetaxel is giving you a hard time, you might ask your oncologist whether that could be suitable for you.
Stephen Greeley. G'day, Stephen.
Oh, hi, guys. Sorry I'm so very late. Thank you.
No,
That's
you're
all right.
fine. I'm Neville. Welcome.
Hey, Neville.
I'm Jim,
Yanni.
the technical guy.
What's your name?
Jim.
Okay.
Whereabouts are you, Stephen?
I'm in Merimbula, far south coast, New South Wales.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've been down here. I used to live in Canberra, moved down here about three and a half years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the situation with your prostate cancer?
I got diagnosed in Canberra in 2018 in November. It was a PSA of 30, advanced metastatic. I got put on hormone therapy because it was already outside the mud in the lymph nodes, and had a Gleason of 9, and went into radiation, and then it went to my hip, and I got my hip replaced, and I think that was dud advice I got at that point. Because, why would you replace the hip when you got advanced metastatic cancer? It's going to show up somewhere else, right? So I went through all that, and then it showed up just above the hip replacement right after I recovered from the surgery. Then I had chemo, and that didn't work. The PSA went up during chemo in Canberra. Then I got told that nothing more can be done for you. That was about 2 years ago. And then I heard about Genesis Care in Sydney. Is it okay to talk about details like this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so I got told about Genesis Care in Sydney, Dr. Jeremy DeLeon up there, that they had a radiation machine that could deliver much more precise dosages because they did an MRI before each radiation session. So I went up, and I had, by then the cancer was in my spine as well as my hip. So I had my first session there, and that was good. Then about 6 months later, it came back in the hip, and I had a second session. So then I had cancer again in my spine and in my rib, and I had another radiation session, but this time on the right machine, and that went okay. And then that was in about August or September. Then in November, it came back again, and I was in a lot of pain, going downhill really fast. November, December, January, February, I was I was getting ready for the end. And then I found out about this Lutetium trial in St. Vincent's with with Peter Mac and St. Vincent's and Bristol Myers Squibb and Sydney Uni all involved. And because of my situation, I became eligible to get into that trial. And it's 6 infusions you get every 6 weeks, and I've just had my 5th one. And it's done an amazing job. From the very first session, the pain went away, the energy level started to come back up, and so I'm doing really well with this. But the prognosis is, I think 90% of people, their PSA does climb back up after the trial is done, because it's not meant to cure it, of course. But 10%, for some reason, it stays down. So they're still obviously trying to figure things out. So that's where we are in a nutshell.
Thanks very much for that, Stephen. Any questions or comments to Stephen?
Well, one of our compatriots who has since passed away. He was on fighting the fight for about 20 years. He was on lutetium for probably about, Barry would have been, what, 6 years?
5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And it did wonders for him. So hopefully it will continue to do wonders for you. But an observation that he made as well is that lutetium is great at stopping the cancer in its tracks and making it retreat, but he felt that it was necessary to supplement it with some sort of systemic treatment. So whether that's some sort of substantial hormone treatment or whatever else, but I think you'd be well advised to see if you could explore those systemic treatments that might be appropriate.
Yeah, failed to mention, I've been on hormone therapy since the day of the diagnosis. So it's been 5 years now on the hormone therapy. So they keep me on that. Every 3 months I get an injection. And I also, because I've got it in the bone, I get Xgeva, which is a calcium injection every month. So yeah, I am on that systemic thing. I think the only systemic thing left is chemo, which, unless somebody's got some other ideas there, other than obviously living a healthy life and trying to stay fit and active as much as I can, and that seems, yeah.
Which of the advanced hormone treatments are you on?
It's Leuprelin.
That's still a first-generation hormone treatment, and my understanding of the relative performance of first-generation hormone treatments is that triptorelin, otherwise known as diferoline, is the most successful at suppressing testosterone production. But then beyond that, there are second-generation hormone treatments, apalutamide, enzalutamide, and the like, that once triptorelin or Leuprelin or whatever fail, you can go on to those.
Oh, I failed to mention, I was on enzalutamide for about 4 or 5 months, and then that wasn't doing anything, so they took me off it. Well, and I don't know if Leuprein's doing anything either, but they just said, well, might as well stay on it,
Yeah. And the only other thing that comes to mind is maybe do some somatic germline DNA tests, and find out whether you've got any DNA aberrations, in which case you could consider using some PARP inhibitors.
Yeah, I failed to mention that too. I've had my family has a line of we all have cancer, and so, but we've all had DNA tests done. They can't find any damaged DNA. But then I also had the cancer itself DNA tested separate from my own DNA, and that didn't reveal any pathways forward either. I feel like I've had really good care, and I'm very lucky, you know, to have lasted this long with this much energy. And but I'll look into that second generation hormone. Thank you. I have a local oncologist at Bega Hospital, Southeast Regional Hospital, and she's just amazing. You know, she's really, I just go to her so that I've got someone local. You know, I don't have to go up to Sydney every time to see, you know, and it's just another person to stay in touch with. It's almost like you know, she runs interference sometimes. She's the one that suggested getting the cancer itself DNA tested and got it done for me. And then, you know, told me it didn't yield anything, but it was at least a good effort on her part.
You never know. She might know of some trials if you're asking that are coming up, because sometimes they can be helpful.
Yes.
So they
yes.
can.
Thank you. You guys, yeah, thanks, guys. How is anyone else in a similar situation to me?
A couple of blokes were on earlier that very similar situation to you, but they just left when you turned up.
Well, next time have a
you-
tradie show up. I've been trying to get him here for 6 weeks.
You'll get a recording of it.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So Stephen, you have had one of the advanced hormone treatments. Enzalutamide is in that class.
Okay. Okay.
Abiraterone's another one.
Okay.
But generally, if you've failed enzalutamide, abiraterone doesn't work too well. But
Okay.
could be worth a crack.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thought might be sorry, where are you, Steve? In
Merimbulus, South Coast, New South Wales.
There was a webinar a few weeks ago talking about other nuclear medicines besides lutetium. So should lutetium get to the point where it stops working, they're now working on other isotopes, whether they're actinium or plumbium, a lead-based one, surprisingly enough. So there are further options possibly down the track. I don't know whether they can be used or should be used after lutetium, but also discussions worth having.
So was it Barry you said that was on lutetium for 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so how many treatments did you have, do you know?
9 altogether.
9, okay. Yes, I've had 5, and they said they're gonna watch me, and they're gonna hold the 6th one in their back pocket and use it as needed. The other thing my oncologist said, that if after this, one other thing they can try is for a month they put you on really high testosterone, and it confuses the heck out of the cancer.
Yeah.
And apparently makes you feel really good for a month, but sometimes it retards the growth as well.
Yeah, BAT treatment.
And sometimes it accelerates it.
Oh.
Everybody's been watching that for about 5 years now. We've been hoping. But the latest results, they've taken the latest studies where only a couple of people out of 14 had a result, and they're looking at all their genome, trying to find and all kinds of measures to try and find out who might benefit from BAT. It's called BAT therapy.
Okay. There's a wealth of knowledge on this Zoom meeting.
Did you have any trouble with your salivary glands on lutetium?
No, it's the very first session I had a little bit of nausea for a couple of nights. But since then, nothing. No, I mean, I've had a little bit of dry mouth every now and again, but it's not a problem. Yeah.
Peter Mack had a worldwide webinar about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, might be a little bit longer. And some of these new ones that are coming through, like lead-212 and actinium-223, I think they might even have a worse effect on the salivary glands, which I thought might be a bit of a worry. So, yeah, but anyway, that was just a thought.
Oh, there's one other thing I should share. So when I got into this trial, it had two pathways in the trial. Firstly, people got selected for the lutetium component, and I got into that, obviously. Then there was a second one where they were doing immunotherapy drugs that were designed to train your immune system to fight the cancer. So a subset of people that got into the lutetium also got into the immunotherapy trial. What happened was I was disappointed I didn't get in, but my oncologist pretty quickly told me after a few months that you're lucky you didn't get in, because a lot of those people in that trial had to be hospitalized, and one person even died, and they stopped the trial, and now they're recalibrating it. The other thought that just came to mind, I'll just share, is that my oncologist went to a prostate cancer conference in America, in Chicago, and I asked her, well, did you learn anything? Is there anything new happening over there? She said, nah. She said, all I got in touch with was new sources of finance to fund what we're doing here in Australia, because we're pretty much just second behind Germany, is what she said, in terms of these types of trials with the radioactive radioisotopes.
Yep.
Well, that webinar that Nev just referred to, I made some specific notes on it, and one of the points made by St Vincent's Hospital representative, I think it was Louise Emmett, said that specifically the Actinium-225 could be used after lutetium-177 failures. So
okay.
So you might want to explore that.
Thank you.
Hopefully
Thank
it won't, but
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they've fully prepared me that it will. There's no way they can look at my pathway and tell me what's going to happen to me after I've finished getting the infusions. Everybody's different. They said, some people, it comes back right away, that rises. Other people, it takes a while. And so, yeah, I will bring that up with my oncologist. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Louise Emmett is highly respected at St Vincent's in Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got Megan Crumbaker as my oncologist there.
Right.
Yeah, well, she was also mentioned in the same.
Yeah, she was
breath.
on that thing the other day, wasn't she, Megan Crumbaker? Yeah.
She's really good. She's really overworked, but she's really good.
Yeah, well, she was one of the people. She was one of the panel on that Peter Mac.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And the only other thought that comes to me is that if you do start to have a rising PSA, and if you catch it early enough, and there's only a few metastases here and there, you could always see whether you could give stereotactic radiation a crack, and see whether you can do the whack-a-mole thing.
Yes.
When they pop up, you shoot them down.
So Stephen, the trial that Barry was on entitled him to 4 doses of lutetium, but then they increased it up to 6. They decided that was within the scope of the trial, and then for the other 3 doses, he got them to do it. One of the things that helped him was that he raised several $1 million for Peter Mac in Melbourne, so that now lutetium is free to people who get their lutetium from Peter Mac if they qualify.
Oh.
But yeah, so if you run out of your 6 and it comes back again, then look at about getting extras if you haven't been able to get onto actinium or lead or whatever.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, this is all very good, encouraging news. I appreciate it. Yeah. I've had some mates here, and I said, you know, it's about $7 grand a pop for if I want to keep going with it here at St. Vincent's afterwards. And a couple of mates said, "Oh, do a GoFundMe. We'll put some money in." Okay, I might. We'll see. Yeah, but I'll try that first. See if I can get the system to pay for it. Yeah.
Yes, Tony Sheehan.
Didn't you see me hands, boys?
No,
Yes,
no.
we saw it.
Just a quick question before you close the meeting, Nev, and it's about PSMA scans. What's the best isotope to use for detecting prostate cancer? Is it fluoride or gallium?
Gallium-68 is the best first one. The fluoride is a good double check just in case there's a different sort of cancer in the same group.
Anybody else?
So if
I just wanted to. The reason I raised that is because when I initially started having PSMA scans, they used the gallium, but now they've gone to the fluoride. So it's not a backward step as far as I'm concerned, is it?
No, it's a double check. It's a standard double check. If you're going for lutetium treatment, they'd usually give you a gallium-68 first, and then they'd have the
FDG.
fluoride one, FDG, whatever. Yeah, so it's just an extra check to make sure they're not missing anything.
Than the gallium, is it?
They can identify different cancers, right? So FDG can identify a lump of cancer that the gallium can't, and vice versa.
Right. So no advantage of alternating between the two?
No, I don't know. I mean, how many do you want to have? Yeah.
Well, my understanding, Tony, is that if your cancer is PSMA avid, that means it secretes the PSMA enzyme or whatever it is, then that will be found by gallium. And if it's found by gallium, then the lutetium will work. If your PSA is rising and the gallium won't find it, then the FDG likely will. As Jim says, it's a different type of cancer because that particular one does not generate PSMA. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes. That check is also used sometimes to suggest you don't bother with the lutetium. I mean, if it turns out you've got from the gallium-68, you've got some treatable cancer, and then they find with the FDG that you've got a whole great big lump that won't be treated, they may say, you know, don't subject yourself to the side effects of the lutetium because you've got, you know, this FDG avid stuff waiting to hit you.
Rightio. You satisfied with that, Tony?
Yeah. I think I might actually question the bloke who does the PSMA scan and see what he's got to say about it as well.
Tony Maxwell?
Yeah, just quickly for Stephen, The stereotactic radiation can be very helpful. I've had that recently and got a good result out of it. I just wanted to mention briefly, and it's not an immediate thing that's available. I've been sort of involved a little bit on and off with a project in Melbourne, a lady called Katie Owen, and she features in the latest version of Blue Sky News. And there's an article there which sort of explains generally about it, where she's looking at, despite the difficulties with immune therapy pathways in the past, she's reasonably hopeful that something may be coming out of her research in that direction. I don't think they've got any clinical trials underway yet or anything like that, but it might just be worth keeping an eye on what Katie Owen at Peter Mac is doing.
Thank you.
Yes, John.
I'm about to say I've got to go, so it's been good to catch up. Well,
Yeah, good to see you. All the best.
yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Righto. Any other comments or questions? It's 11 o'clock, so.
I have one
Yes,
question.
yes, Stephen.
Is the stereotactic radiation, is that the same as the using the MRI LINAC machine?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
They're just different ways of describing highly accurately aimed radiation.
Thank you. Okay, that was my last question. Thank you.